was 16, my first job was as a waitress in a golf club in Scotland. And every night I came home from my shift stinking of smoke. Because the men, and it was all men, that I was serving in the golf club were smoking heavily, the chefs were smoking heavily, and it was embedded in my uniform. I hated it, but there was nothing I could do about it. It was normal. 2 years later, in 2006, the smoking ban came into effect in Scotland, and suddenly I didn't have to stink anymore. Normal changed overnight. That wasn't so long ago, but now when I see a movie from the 80s or 90s where someone's smoking in a pub or on a plane or in an office, I get a bit of a shock in my psyche because what's normal has changed, and that doesn't look normal to us anymore. Something else I did when I was young was on Friday nights, I was excited to get home to watch the new episode of Friends. So I'm a reluctant millennial. None of us like to be lumped together with another group of people and have the papers and older generations talk about us as if we're all the same with our avocado problems and whatever else we've got going on. But the dividing lines in the millennial generation have been exposed by Friends. So you have the older millennials in our early 30s, late 20s, who went home on a Friday night to watch the new episode of Friends. And you have the younger millennials who watched Friends as an ironic box set when it landed on Netflix about a year ago. And these dividing lines on the internet have been quite rough and quite telling in terms of what's normal. The younger millennials were outraged and very quick to point out the problems in Friends. Transphobia, homophobia, racism. Do not get them started on how controlling Ross is of his girlfriends. And it's true. I still love that show. It was a big part of growing up for me. But I watch it now with 2019 eyes and I see those problems. And again, that was not very long ago. This is a question about narratives and about the stories that we tell about ourselves. The way we tell stories in popular culture, in films, in songs, and TV shows, it reflects our times and it reflects our attitudes, but it also helps to shape our attitudes and give us a sense of what normal looks like. It's well documented, the importance of representation on screen, particularly when it comes to gender. But what about representation of our economy? If we can't be what we can't see, what are the stories that we're telling ourselves about what common sense is when it comes to the economy and what's possible in terms of the economy? The stories we like to tell ourselves about humanity and where we're going as a species quite often feature the apocalypse, and quite often we've done that to ourselves. Think about how many of your favourite films or books or TV shows are about us bringing about our own destruction. And there might be a plucky group of heroes who manage to forge out life on a spaceship or a new planet or under the ground, or it might be a story about how we make children fight to the death over scarce resources. Hunger Games. We love those stories, and there's a lot of them. But where are the stories where we figure out the climate emergency and solve it? Where are the stories where we thrive in the long term in the planet? Where are the stories where we redesign the economy? Our first challenge as the Wellbeing Economy Alliance, when we think about narratives and storytelling, is just to open up people's imaginations that it's possible to redesign the economy. That the one we have now was designed. Money was designed. We made that up. That's not a natural resource. We gave those values to things, and we perpetuate that in our society. This isn't a new idea. We know from psychology, from neuroscience, and anthropology that human beings are hardwired to be social, to be collaborative. Competition is social, but it's only one part of what it means to be social and one part of what it means to be human. Cooperation has always been key to our survival and to our evolution. From hunting and gathering to Wikipedia, we advance when we work together. The popular stories that dominate now tell us that we are selfish again and again and again because we're in an economic system that depends on us being selfish. You'll hear people say that the system is broken, but actually it's not broken. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do, to make rich people richer and reinforce selfish values, selfish narratives. It tells us that economic success is about growth, about winning, and extracting from the planet and from each other as much as we possibly can. And you know what? Yes, we are selfish. That is part of what it means to be human. But we're so much more than that, and we're stuck in an economic system that is only telling us half of our story. So we can only imagine stories based on that half of ourselves. We all have enormous capacity for kindness. We all care about nature. We all love our families, and we love other people, whether we meet them or not. We all enjoy music and other types of art. We all need food, and we love food. And we all want to belong to a community. George Monbiot said recently, even fascists just want to belong, in a creepy sort of way, but we do all just want to belong. So what's normal in the economy and society is really far removed from all of those aspects of who we all are, but we continue to reinforce our selfish stories. So the Wellbeing Economy Alliance that I work for, or We All for short, the Wellbeing Economy is a vision that we are promoting and working with others to try and bring about. It's a vision for what the economy could be if it was based on well-being instead of growth. In a well-being economy, the way that we live would be different. Work would be different. The things and processes that we design would be different from the start. We've heard already this morning about the need not to just fix problems at the end, but to design differently from the beginning. That purpose of delivering well-being, not just for human beings, but also for nature and other species from the start, is our big shared challenge. We've already had the question this morning about how we reach people with that story, the story of a different type of economy. I'm a big fan of an organisation called the Frameworks Institute, and their work has really inspired me, partly because it's working. They work with organisations that are trying to change people's minds and trying to reach people with campaigns, influential stories and messages. And I know that it works because in the UK, their project on poverty is already starting to change the terms of the debate, with journalists and politicians starting to use the language that the Frameworks Institute have put out there. And attitudes on what it means to be poor in the UK are shifting. I also know it works because I've used these techniques as a campaigner when I worked for Oxfam in conversations that I had one-to-one with people about how they feel about refugees and immigration. Their work on framing is based on the idea and the fact that we all hold contradictory values. So like Jeneth was saying, we need to think of ourselves as whole human beings and engage with people about what we share instead of just what we disagree on, and not assume that people are wrong just because we might meet on a point of disagreement. Based on audience research and human psychology, Frameworks Institute tell us that we can't myth bust or confront people with facts if we actually want to change minds and achieve things together. All of us, myself included, when we're confronted with facts that contradict our deeply held beliefs and things that we really care about, we don't respond by saying, "Oh, thank you. Now that I know that, I'm just going to change my mind completely. So glad you gave me that fact." Nobody responds that way. We get defensive and we double down on our own version of reality. And we don't meet in the middle and we don't find compromise. It's hard to say this to academics, but facts are not going to be the thing that changes the economy, that changes people's hearts and minds. We need those facts, but in order to open up imaginations, which is our first big challenge, we need to do more than facts. We need to tap into values, as Jeneth was saying just before. What Frameworks Institute tell us works are metaphors, stories, little monsters that we're hearing about already today, and also shared values. This is where the acronym of the Wellbeing Economy Alliance actually matters more than the name itself. A well-being economy is what we're trying to build, but we all is how we get there. We all is the antidote to us versus them. We all is about putting togetherness and belonging at the heart of how we move forward as a species. And we all is recognising that we've got more in common than what divides us. We all, those two words, that's a story in itself, a story of collaboration over competition. It's the way we must work if we're going to deliver a new economy, if we're going to triumph over disaster in terms of climate and deliver good lives for everybody. Isn't that the basis of the best type of story? So imagine that it's 2030 and you're with your kids watching an old movie from 2019, what is it about that movie that will make them say, I can't believe you used to live like that? What will you look back on in disbelief in 2030 when you see it portrayed on screen from today? It might be the way that we take what we want from the planet, destroying other species and fueling climate change. Maybe it's how much we fly. Maybe it's just how busy we are all the time and how much we work. Maybe it's how our systems value some human life over others. If we can work together to find solutions to those problems, then one day they can be an unbelievable scene in a movie or a TV show. It's time to start telling the stories now that we need to see in order to imagine that future. Thank you.